Okay, thanks for that, Barry. Thanks very much for that. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Rab Lees. I work as a team leader in the development delivery arm of Local Energy Scotland and CARES. I'm based in Fort William in the Lochaber area, and I've been working in and around community renewables since 2003, formerly a plumber. So I know the area, I know the remoteness of the area, I know quite a few folk in the area. So I've been around for quite a while. Working in this sort of field. So welcome to this session 5 of the CARES conference, and it's entitled How to Overcome the Barriers of Remoteness. I was preparing last week for this and I was looking into Wikipedia to see if I could find any sort of clear definition of what was remote Scotland. So when I done that, it gave me a drop-down list of, dozens really, of areas and names and sort of stuff like that. So, these included the border, Scottish Borders area, the southwest, Dumfries and Galloway, Highland Perthshire, and of course the Highlands and the Islands. So there's plenty of about, and we ourselves have a decent number of CARES community buildings projects within this area of remoteness. So it's fair to say we've got a good idea of what it's all about and some of the things that afflict at these remote areas as well in terms of project development and delivery. So remoteness throws up many challenges, we've found for developing community renewables projects, and these can include, for example, distance from market, difficulty with grid connection or grid availability even, travel, logistics, accommodation, and even weather. And really just getting somebody to come along and do the job can be really difficult in these areas, and it doesn't have to be the complete solar job or the complete renewables jobs, but other little sort of infrastructure bits and pieces as well, it would be quite difficult, So for today's session, we've got very pleased to say that we've got 2 representatives from community projects that have had to overcome some of these challenges of remoteness and have actually installed their projects. One's been installed for a while and one is nearly there. So in this session, we're going to be hearing firstly from Dr. Sam Harrison, who we've had quite a long-standing relationship with. Actually, this project took quite a while to get up and running and deliver and sort of stuff like that. Due to remoteness as well. So Sam is the executive director of the Shieling Project in Glen Strathfarrar, and it's a fabulous area. I don't know that I'd like to be there on a damp August afternoon, right enough. It looks a bit like midgy hell. I've visited it a couple of times, not to the Shieling, but very close by and fishing the river and sort of stuff like that. And the second person we've got is Alan Parker, who is the project manager for the Tobermory Scout Hall project. And I should say this is for the 15th Argyll and 1st Muileach Scout Group, to give them a proper title. So Sam, hopefully here, is going to offer his perspective on the challenges and the opportunities of remoteness and how he overcame these challenges and took advantage of this remote location to install both solar PV and biomass heat systems. So it's a really good project. I'm looking forward to his presentation. But I'll let Sam explain a bit more on that shortly. And our second guest, Alan, is also going to take us through the challenges of being in an island setting and developing and delivering a project that includes both solar, PV and battery storage. So there's a lot more to the project than just that. They've actually erected a brand new Scout Hall. He'll also take us through some of the difficult issues that the project had to face and overcome. But again, I'm not going to steal Alan's thunder, and I'll let him talk us through things. So firstly, Sam, I'll ask you to take us through your project, and then after that, I'll ask Alan to do the same. And then we'll sort of finish off. I'll round it off with some projects, maybe questions that'll go directly about the projects, and then we can just open it up to the floor and have a general discussion about remoteness. So without further ado, it's over to Sam. Just to let you know, Sam, we've got you timed for about 20 minutes, so I've got a wee stopwatch here, so I'll give you a wave when it's getting close to that, if it's overrunning or anything. Okay.
Yeah, fantastic.
No bother. Okay.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, and we've got the presentation.
Yay. Yep.
Okay. Thanks so much. Thank you very much for letting me and inviting me to talk today. I'm really happy to be talking, and also a massive thank you for Local Energy Scotland Cares, who funded all this that I'm going to tell you about, which is made a massive impact on us. So I'm the founder of the Shieling Project. We're an off-grid sustainability education project out in Strathfarra, which in some ways doesn't seem that remote because, you know, we're only 45 minutes from Inverness, but the project itself is actually 2 kilometres up a track, so it's very difficult to actually get there, to get any decent sized vehicle up there that isn't an off-road vehicle. So that makes us remote in that way, and yeah, and I guess we're in the broader context of the Highlands where getting hold of services and that sort of thing is quite difficult. So I guess I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk a little bit about why we came to the decision to get biomass and PV and the whole process. So as I say, we're an off-grid education centre, and partly we're off-grid by choice, and partly we're off-grid by necessity because, as I say, we were up a 2 kilometre track. We leased 10 acres of ground starting in 2015, and there was no services on there apart from a little bit of grid electricity that came to the old house building. So we had a choice right from the start to spend an awful lot of money upgrading the electricity supply and putting in you know, full services, or looking at an off-grid route that would be less expensive, but also we felt be much more educationally interesting for all the children and adults that come to learn from us. So we run a variety of courses for schools for during the summer. We have 600 to 700 people come to visit us, and we built with all those visitors, including all the school children, almost every building that you'll see in any of these pictures. So this is the kitchen that we see here, and that was built by school kids. So the choice to be off-grid was both by necessity and also educational choice, because we could then focus on simple, small-scale technologies that actually we could then really look at and learn from, as opposed to just having a massive cable under the ground that sorted everything out and there wouldn't be anything interesting to learn about, and would also cost us more. We're also, the education centre is sort of seasonally restricted, so we have some pretty bad weather in Strathfarra, and so we don't really do work between you know, massive sort of week-long trips for schools during the late autumn and the winter. So that also has an impact on what kind of resources we can have, what kind of services we can have. Our buildings are sort of quite summer focused, and that becomes quite important in a second. So I'm just going to go through some of the needs that led us to get towards, and this was, as Rab pointed out, a very long process, which we had care support for all the way through, which is fantastic. But it took us a very long time to actually get to the stage where we had the renewables installed and working for us, partly because we did know our needs, which I'm going to talk to you a bit more about, but also we had to go through a very slow and sometimes convoluted process of trying to find out what technologies would actually meet these needs. So in terms of our hot water supply, for 4 years until we got the biomass boiler working, we actually just had, there isn't a picture of it here, but just a 25-litre gas urn that produced all our water for all our cooking and all our washing up. And you can imagine a group of 30 kids in a large kitchen and showering and everything. That was quite tricky. So we had a massive need for hot water, but at the same time, we had these, you know, sort of fairly permeable buildings that wouldn't work very well with an actual you know, hot water tank in, because that would just freeze during the winter. So we had quite a lot of constraints around what we needed hot water wise. We also needed hot water to meet our sort of hygiene needs. So we were obviously moving around the kitchen with large pots of hot water, which is not very safe, and also just getting hot water to come out of these taps would make life a lot easier to keep everything clean. And equally, we had this issue about water safety. If we were going to have a hot water tank, then we'd have to effectively heat it through every certain amount of hours to reduce Legionella risk, and that again would then need electricity. So we for quite a number of years we were sort of cycling through different solutions, many of which seemed very costly, to try and get a technology that was the right scale and size for our needs. So yeah, so there's obviously a need for food hygiene need as well for keeping everything clean, and obviously we managed for 4 years with a 25-litre gas urn, but that was making life quite difficult. And equally, we had a need for showering. It's kind of faded out in this fancy presentation format that I just got straight off PowerPoint. But you can actually see Ryan there. He's holding a sort of one of those shower bags. So it's very simple. Obviously, we want kids to understand the amount of water they use when they come to us, and so there's 8 litres of hot water in that bag. But to be able to produce that hot water easily and in the shower room, as opposed to having to walk to the kitchen and fill it up from the urn, those kinds of things would make a big difference to us. And also, having worked for a long time with very basic accommodation before these lovely bothies were built, which we didn't build ourselves, the only bit that we didn't, we had scout tents. But we wanted to sort of up our general level of comfort for everybody visiting to match the quality of our cabins here. There's solar heated cabins just by passive solar gain. And therefore, we wanted to, by increasing our quality of and comfort level, we wanted to attract more people. We want to be a more successful business. As a social enterprise, we wanted to make more money rather than be less and be less grant reliant. So actually tied up in these issues about services and what would work for us off grid was a business case, and a very important business case. And so that's the old house, and when we moved on site, that had been abandoned since 1968, didn't have any central heating, didn't have any insulation, so it was very, very cold, and I know because I lived there up until a couple of months ago. So keeping our staff a bit warmer would also make life a lot easier for everybody. Let me just check how I'm doing time-wise. Okay, that's good. So we had those set of needs, and as I say, it took quite a few years and quite a lot of different commissioned pieces of research through early Local Energy Scotland support to try and find solutions to that varied set of needs that would fit within our context. Obviously, not having a massive grid electricity supply to, say, provide Legionella treatment to the hot water tank, having buildings that were fairly low impact and permeable to the winter weather. But we also had a really, really important need alongside that, which was for whatever infrastructure we were going to fit to have an educational value to us. Not just we put the infrastructure in and it gets hidden away and then that's it. But we wanted to be able to build some of it. We wanted to be able to see it installed. And once it was installed, we wanted to be able to open it up and have a look at it and learn about how it was used, how it functioned, the engineering, calculate the kilowatt hours, all those kinds of things. So we had a need for technology that was going to be able to be educationally visible, because that's how we do things. So this is just a picture here of us building our compost toilets. We didn't just pay some company to do it. We built them ourselves, and then we go and poke our heads in the holes and look at the poo, because that's part of the learning that happens at the Shieling Project. So we had that approach that we want to take to the renewables, and we needed it at the right scale. So we needed to be able to fit it into how the whole project ran, rather than have a massive biomass boiler with a huge hopper and huge lorries coming on site every couple of months to refill it. We wanted something that was appropriate to how we worked. So the first solution to providing our hot water and our space heating needs was to get the biomass boiler. And after a very long time of researching and looking at different alternatives, we settled on this one, which is called the Classic Edge. And you can guess that it's from the States, made by Central Boilers. And it's really interesting. You can see it there in the picture. It looks a bit like the TARDIS. And it's cool because it doesn't need a fireproof building around it. It's built to sit outdoors. So obviously that saved us a massive amount of money. And we didn't then have to fit an entire classroom inside a building to look at it. So we can stand around in a safe distance and we can look at our biomass boiler working, and we don't have to spend money on a building over it. It's put solid wood in. You can see me stacking some wood there. So again, it's all about appropriate scale and size. So we don't need to use more diesel to chip or pellet wood and then bring it on site and have a massive hopper. Because we have lots of people and lots of groups here, we have lots of hands to actually process and dry the wood, stack it when we get it from our local community woodland. So it actually works for us to have quite a sort of person intensive approach. For someone who wants this just to feed automatically, that's not going to work. But for us, when we wanted to bring a group down to help us stack the wood and help us feed the wood into the boiler, it actually works to have things to do to get the kids involved in how the biomass boiler works. So it's a 30 kilowatt system. We don't have a buffer tank. We basically, there's a jacket of water that sits around the biomass boiler. It's a wood gasification boiler, so we load, you can see the doors open in the picture, we load the solid timber in, it gets burnt, and the gases get sucked down, and you can actually see on the bottom left that it says reaction chamber. So the gases get sucked down into the reaction chamber and burnt again, and it produces, when it's working really efficiently, it produces an absolute minimum of ash. It's really very impressive. And we have then 3 legs that we can open up to go to our dairy and staff accommodation, and our shower and kitchen. So during different times of the year where we have different needs, we can then move that hot water around in different directions. So it's actually really a fantastic system. We buy the wood in green, which again is a lot cheaper, and we can just buy it by the trailer load from the local community woodland. We're not looking at say massive hoppers of pellets coming in and storing that. We then dry the wood, so there's the kids are involved in stacking and calculating, you know, what sort of moisture content we've got, how long we need to dry things for. And that also is a sort of cheapness thing, in the sense that buying non-kilned, you know, wet wood is a lot cheaper. And then, I haven't got pictures of these, I'm afraid, but then at the point of use, up in our 2 sort of converted marquees, the shower room and the bathroom, we have plate heat exchangers, which are really fantastic little pieces of technology where effectively we have a closed loop coming out of the biomass boiler, which is the glycol sort of hot water just going round and round, and that comes to the plate heat exchanger, and then the heat is then taken out of the glycol hot water into cold water, and then when we turn the hot water tap on in the bathroom or in the kitchen, it's actually the cold water that we're running that's just heated almost instantaneously as it goes through the plate heat exchanger. So that means that we don't store any hot water in any water tanks in any of those places to freeze in the winter or to get Legionella. So it's a very neat solution. And the heat exchanger is a small, very well engineered piece of sort of stack of metal. And it works amazingly well. It transfers about 50 degrees centigrade of heat almost instantaneously when you turn the cold water flow through it. So that was the solution, which we found eventually, and now works really well for us. So that provides us our hot water out of taps, which after 5 years of not having any hot water taps was quite a revelation, and also provides space heating for staff. So that's that. And then the other solution that we came up with in terms of looking at providing lighting, extending our season into the darker times, and just lighting in the evening, and as well as you know, AV. Being able to do presentations and so on at the project. We looked at different ways of making this happen. We looked at wind, but in fact, the sort of scale that would happen at and the efficiency of the wind in the valley wasn't going to happen. We looked at what we might need, given how far north we are, in terms of trying to produce electricity all the way through the year as compared to just producing it in our busy season. And we decided not to have 50 panels for the off day in December that we might not be open anyway, where we might need light. So again, we try to choose an affordable scale. We've got these ground mounted ones because it's very, very simple to dismantle them, demount them, and take them with us when our lease ends, if our lease ends. So for various reasons, this was the most practical setup. So we've got 10 320 watt panels, an inverter and batteries, and they serve us extremely well for our lighting. So we've, in the end, after quite a number of years of sort of working out what we needed and how we needed it, we've ended up with 2 pretty small scale, reasonably affordable in the grand scheme of what these technologies can cost, setups that actually are really well tailored to the scale and size and need that we have. They enable us to continue to be off-grid, and also, you know, with, for example, sourcing wood from the local community forest to be connected in to what's happening in the local community. We haven't had to lay any massive cables to the mains grid, and also we've got you know, now a really interesting set of technologies that we can go with all our groups and go and look at. So for example, we can go down and we can go and see the solar panels. We can go to the you know, the shed that we've got our panels, our batteries and inverters in. We can look at them. We've got all the companies that came and fitted these put lots of readout meters everywhere, so that we've got data that we can gather and we can process and we can do our maths with. We've got worksheets around where we are, our latitude and how much sun we get and what hours of light we might get at what time of year. And so we've got a whole set of learning that we can do around these different technologies. And now we've got light and heat, so we're very happy. Obviously, sometimes we still want to boil a kettle over a fire, which is important. But yeah, so I guess that's kind of our story. It's one, that, as I say, took a lot of time to find the right kind of technology that was affordable and at the right scale. Some of the initial research came back with just some massive systems that in the end would have been more expensive than just a grid connection. Even if they might have been educationally valuable, they still wouldn't have been cost effective. So it took us quite a long time to get the right kind of technologies in the proposed plan. We struggled sometimes to find the right kind of contractor. We had some bad experiences, we had some good experiences. So I think that was also part of the issue, trying to find electricians that could do the job and match up with the solar panels, trying to find an installer that would work with this off-the-shelf American biomass boiler. So I think, again, that remoteness played into the, which everybody will understand, the sort of, difficulties in finding the right people to do the job. But in the end, we have a system that works really well for us. And and I guess that's kind of all I want to say, but I'll wait till the questions and answers, and I'm sure you'll be able to ask much more interesting things that I've forgotten to tell you about. So thanks for listening.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Sam. That was really interesting, and for me, just really pleasing to see, I had envisaged it in my mind's eye, and for some reason I had, with the buildings and the kitchen and stuff like that, these khaki, kind of dull khaki kind of covers over it, but it looks really swish, and really sort of neat, and as with the wee units, I can recall sitting drawing things out on pieces of paper with myself, and quite a few development officers from Cares were involved in the project too, so we can remember sort of drawing things out in sites and sort of discussing stuff about cables and pipes and the like as that. So it's really good to see. So thanks very much for that, and we'll look forward to some more questions on that once Alan's given us his presentation. So we've got Alan Parker here from Tobermory Scout Hall, who's going to take us through his project and some of the issues that he had to overcome, and he's nearing very close to completion. So it's all yours, Alan.
Right, it's up and down. Yeah. Okay, well, my name is Alan Parker. I live in Tobermory on the Isle of Mull. My wife is the guide commissioner for Mull, and so she's been involved with this raising money and getting the hall together for the last, when I came to Tobermory from the Ross of Mull in '91, they were starting to raise money for the Scout Hall, and it's been going on ever since. So here we go. That's basically the fundraising situation. Hall's been on the cards now for the 90s. Not years gone past without a couple of £100 being added. However, the older hall got, the more the hall got, the more the maintenance was required to be done, and it was all by volunteers. Normally grant funding has come and gone, and deadlines to spend have passed. The Scouting Association don't themselves have funds for capital rebuilds, and we don't fit nearly into all the other funds like LEADER. Eventually, about 4 years ago, we got enough money together from the co-op, landfill and various organisations like yourselves to get this project going. The estimates from the local contractors were well over £200,000 to build. And I thought, well, if we can do it, we can probably, if we've got plenty of assistance and help, we could probably do it for about 160. If we had enough volunteers and project managed, if I project managed it. And guess when we tried to start? Yes, just before COVID. Anyway, a gap occurred in COVID and we started. Now, first of all, the reason I got involved with it, A, because of my wife, and B, I set the wood fuel cluster up on Mull I have a 100 kilowatt a biomass boiler feeding our properties. I've got a 15 kilowatt wind turbine in the front yard. I've been involved and interested in all these sort of projects all the time I've been on the island. So it was reasonable that I went ahead. I've got plenty of building experience under my belt, so we just decided to go for it. So here we are. This is the beginning of it when we got able to start, and this is the demolition. Now you notice in there the demolition includes really some quite good timber in there, even though the place was falling apart otherwise. So we managed to rescue the timber and deliver the timber to various places around the island that people wanted extra timber. We put things on social media. Do you want to buy some timber? And there was virtually no waste. There was some waste that we had to waste because it was well woodwormed and had to be destroyed. But otherwise, we virtually sold all the timber for various reasons around the island or around Tobermory. That's the building. We pulled it down ourselves bit by bit. As you can see there, we were taking quite a lot of care to pull things out. A lot of the 4x2, 6x2s were quite usable. And our intention was to, although we couldn't do the whole place in renewables, we'd looked at heat pumps, we'd looked at air source, ground source. And for the application, it was actually cheaper to go for saving power when either the power is cheap or we've produced it by sunlight, so saving it into batteries, and then using infrared heaters and direct water heaters and so on to power the place. But anyway, we cleared the site out. The rock again we used, and we sold quite a lot of it. We got £3,000 just for the rock for various people along the road that wanted to infill some land. So we made about £3,000 to £4,000 on the timber, probably £3,000 to £4,000 on or a bit more on the hardcore, besides using it ourselves. And that's the beginning of the strip fans going underneath the beginning of the project. And I made the retaining panels on the right hand side rather than use gabions. There we are laying the foundations. Local concrete and so on is all available to us, so that's not too bad. Our main other real problem was the getting things to the island, getting them there on time, accommodation, and all the things that Rab said in his introduction. Those are the things that really hold us up, and engineers' reports and all the peripheral things, rather than people coming in and helping, which we've had, rather than actually using the best of our finance. It's getting things in the right place at the right time, and then making sure that they're economically and efficiently used. I'm sorry there's so much concrete went in, but also there was a hell of a lot of insulation went underneath the floor, and we've got a quite fairly high value building for a low U value out of a basic building, which needs to be a mini sports hall with facilities for changing and a kitchen, because the kids like to bake their own things. We had to have a disabled for obvious reasons, and the whole process was basically around trying to be as efficient as possible. £160,000 looked like a fair amount of money at the beginning of the project, but as COVID went on, and then the materials, we had an immediate 25% rise in timber costs. Fortunately, we bought the timber as a job lot and had it stored at the builders merchants in advance. So several things, because we had to buy them in advance, worked quite well. There we are, just starting to unload the kit going up. We didn't put the kit up ourselves in the end. We were pushing for time. We'd had a big hold up for an engineer's report on one frame that's on the structure. And at the back of there, you can see Gleneishall, that Rab knows, which is a sheltered housing area. So we've had to be a little bit sensitive towards building times and trying not to cause too much disturbance. And there's our panels going on, and they would install solar. It took us quite a long time to find a company that was still in existence after the beginning, because a lot of the ones that were doing feed-in tariff installs were getting loads of work, but after that they basically disappeared. So we were left with 2 or 3 firms, some of which we've been introduced to on an expo by Cares in Inverness about 4 or 5 years ago, but everyone had changed round. Anyway, there we go. We've got installer to come along and actually install it more or less at the time we wanted it to, before we started putting many sort of things on the inside, because we had to put the wiring through the building to the inverters, and I wanted to get the batteries in there as well, because we're in the middle of summer in the build. So we could at least get some power under our belts and get the connection changed to an energy supplier that will give a proper rate for feeding. Even though my intention is to use it as absolutely much as possible in the building itself. There's the inside of it now, ready for laying the timber floor. That was just the if you like, the games area. It's big enough for a badminton court, high enough for a badminton court, although it's got quite a few windows. They're quite decent value windows for that. There's the cladding going on the outside. Me having a piece as we're just installing the cladding makes it look a little bit like not like a shed, although it is a Scout Hall, but that's more or less what it looks like now. Right, so the inhibitions. First of all, ferries. Last 10 years, ferries have got worse and worse and worse. They're unreliable. They're low on capacity on occasions because we are a tourist area. We've been building in 2 summers. We've had problems with getting installers to realise that they have to stay overnight. They're not going to finish and hop back to Glasgow in the same day. Actually instilling that into them, that they have to prepare, has been one of the hardest things and has caused all sorts of problems. They've gone home and left one set of the hall not finished. They've gone home and not really fastened the panels down properly and just disappeared, and trying to get them back. They've not installed the batteries. Apparently they've run out and they're still awaiting delivery. So those sort of things, thinking in advance is one thing, but getting installers to fit in advance is another thing. But compared to the last project, this one's easy peasy. It's a big shed with loads of stuff in it, but we've had to do it very economically because otherwise we'd have already run out of money. We'll probably be down to our last £2,000 next week. That's provided that the grant that's promised, the last grant that's promised to us, actually comes through. So we're a bit sailing close to the wind, but well, apart from the car park, we're getting there. So I'll hand back to stop sharing, and then we've got plenty of time for questions. Over and out. I think, have we gone back?
Yeah, you certainly have.
Good.
No, that was great, Alan. From a personal perspective, it's good to see that building up as well, and quite a difference from the old Scout Hall. I remember well from my full year of working in Gleneatial Street behind the Scout Hall, so I know the area really, really well. I can recall being over there at that time, and we had a really, really severe frost that winter. It was really, really cold. So, but no, thanks to both Sam and Alan for their presentations and the halls and the facilities that they've been doing. They're both very, very interesting, both very different, of course, but both very interesting nonetheless. And it's just some interesting wee things came into my head there. Sam talking about poking his head into a chemical toilet was interesting, and also your observation about installers having to think in advance and realising that they're on an island and they can't just hop back to Glasgow and sort of stuff like that. And I'm well aware of that, having stayed over there for a year myself. So if we'd maybe open up the floor to questions about, maybe in the first instance just related to the projects, and then we can maybe go on to talk about something maybe, more sort of general about remoteness and some of the issues and things that throws up. So